Hello, friends, and welcome back. In this episode, expect to learn just how much your environment influences your behavior, why some people have more self control than others, what causes poor self restraint, the consequences of letting your impulses run wild, practical strategies to stop feeling like you're constantly rowing against the current of progress, and much more. So, this episode is going to be about your environment and self control. Why, for some reason, it seems like more people have more self control than you in certain areas of your life, certain domains. And I know that if you're anything like me, sometimes I wonder, is it because something is wrong with me? Am I lacking some type of characteristic trait that for some reason other people have are more inherently inclined to them, or they are just better and more skilled at developing them and harnessing them and applying them to several different domains. And this thought has kind of loomed over my head from just different areas of my life where I have tried to improve myself, whether it's in health and fitness, personal development, my intellectual, academic side, my professional life, personal relationships, whatever, all the rest of it. And just thinking, man, if I had more self control, if I had more discipline, I would be in a better spot than I am right now. Because it's easy to think of, I wish I had this. I wish I was this person. I wish I had this house. I wish I had this career. I wish I made this much. But to have those type of things, to be those type of people, you may be thinking to yourself, I need the characteristic traits of being more disciplined, having more self control over my impulses, and a lot of that. But so many times that we want to have these things or become these type of people, in the moment we tell ourselves we're just going to be more disciplined, we'll just be better. And that's not a bad mindset or a spark of motivation, but it leaves you very directionless and vague. And so when we talk about somebody being more consistent, being more disciplined, or just being better, embodying those type of character traits and how they do what they do to get to where they're trying to get to and become the things and do the things, it's really vague and directionless. And it's like, okay, what does that look like? And so this is a segment from the live seminar that I hosted, I think about 2 weeks ago now, which was my first live seminar, which was a huge success for the books. Very nerve wracking, and I underestimated the level of stress that seminar was going to have on me post seminar. So I definitely lost my voice afterwards, and I was very nervous throughout the whole thing. But it was the most comfortable that I have ever given a public speech, because throughout university and school, all the way up since really growing up, public speaking, I've always gone very nervous. My face got gone very flush, and I just like forget how to think and string my words together and dig into my piggy bank of thoughts and words and how they string together. I just become a babbling buffoon that just becomes like flushed in the face. But this was the most comfortable I've ever been. So that was a success. So yeah. So taking a piece of that, talking today about really how can you have more self-control? And it's pretty easy. It's more easy than you think. So we're gonna get right into it. And so the really big thing that the really big thing I want to really like hammer in is that your environment plays such a huge role in the behaviors and the habits and all the things that you're trying to do and form and become more consistent. Whether it's you are trying to work out more, drink more water, become a person that's like your like studying habits, really just all habits and behaviors really comes from your environment. Your environment influences a lot. And instead of me trying to just tell you to just be better, like I said, it's very vague and directionless. Let me give you some more of like kind of like the big picture talk and then down into the actual practical, more tangible things that you can actually do. And so if right now the biggest hammer, if I can share with you that you can swing that has the greatest ROI, return on investment of your time for the input that you put in, is change your environment. And I like to tier this down to three different levels to really help with that. Because when you look at things that you want to do, there's like a performance gap. So there's where you are at one end of the spectrum to the thing that you want to do. So you right here is one example. It's like, hey, you want to be able to be someone who takes more walks or drinks more water or does whatever X behavior. There's the gap between what you were not doing the thing to where you want to do the thing, and you got to close that gap. And so what really influences or are like our inputs. So our inputs, it's not just about you as a person or character traits and things like that. It's very multifactorial, and a lot of influences things that really affects people, from your environmental, from your psychological, from genetics, from economical, from it's very multifactorial. But I'm just going to focus on the environment because that's kind of the biggest thing that you can pull the lever on to make the biggest impact on your life right now, that has a great ROI that really doesn't cost you any money. It can, but we're gonna go through the three different levels. And so when it comes to environment, I like to break it down from like your internal, your external, and your digital. And so when I say internal, I am talking about the stuff that goes on between your like eyes. So in your mind. And so when we look at internal, your mind and of your thoughts and your beliefs and your self-talk and story that you tell yourself, and then also the narrative and the expectation and the pressure from other people's words that are also influencing your thoughts and behaviors and everything around that whole intertwined mess. So the internal world of your mind. So that's the environment, the landscape, the texture of what you think about. And then now the next layer is more of the external world. So wherever you spend the most amount of your time. So whether that be at home, if you commute to work or you work from home, so that plays a huge influence because you are working 40 plus hours a week, or school, or like whatnot. So you spend a lot of time with whatever the work is, with whatever season of life you're in. So your home life, your work environment, your car. So if you commute, you spend a lot of time in cars. So your home, your car, your work, also on your phone. And then the location that you live. And so like the zip code that you are in and the people that's in your home, the people in your neighborhood, the people that's just around you within like a 1 to 5 mile radius that you commonly see and observe, and all the places you go to, like grocery stores, gas stations, and things like that. So people, all that and what you observe, it influences you for sure. And now we go on more of like the surface level, which is your digital. So this is kind of everything within your like the screens. So on your computer, on your phone, on your Apple Watch, your whatever smart watch you have, just whatever has a screen and is projecting some type of stimulus input to you. And so all of that influences what you think and what you see and all that stuff. And so there's this like phrase I really like: where attention goes, energy flows. And so when you look at your environment, there's your internal environment, your external, and your digital environment, just to keep it very simple. And with all that, that's everything has your attention at each of those levels. And so the biggest thing that I really work on with myself and clients, and I tell people, is let's just work on your environment first from your external world. It's just going to be the easiest thing that you can start making changes now that will influence your habits, your behaviors, and then that way you don't have to think as hard. Because the misconception is you think that a lot of people who are doing certain things, like there's people that you probably see online or know in real life that you probably place on a pedestal and admire them, and you like what they're doing, and you hope to be like them one day, to be able to do the things at their caliber and at that scale. And you may be thinking, wow, this person's so disciplined, they have everything put together, they're such a well put person, and they just are so consistent. But the misconception here is that maybe they have just set up their environment to where they don't have to expend a whole bunch of mental energy to make decisions, and they just curate their environment to work for them and not against them. And so what I mean by that is, I'm going to kind of take the example of like grocery stores. And so when you go to a grocery store, if you notice at the cash register lines, there's always a lot of candy and sweets and easy things that you can just grab and go. And maybe when you go to the grocery store and you don't think about some of those, like those gums, those drinks, those candies, those cookies, those bags of chips at the checkout lines. You don't think about them, but now when you're standing in line and you're there for about a minute or two, you notice them and you start thinking about it, and then maybe your impulses take over, and however way you kind of rationalize in your mind, you maybe grab it and go. And right there, your behavior was influenced on that scale, because the grocery store, the people who run those things, use a little bit of human psychology because they place it within your line of vision. So if you can see it, you weren't thinking about before, but now you see it, you're thinking about it, and you're already standing there in line, and so you have time to process, and then you make a decision, you can grab it. And so, excuse me. So taking that right there, you're just like, man, I keep on buying stuff. It's just, if you see it, it does affect you, from all the sweets, from all the candy, from just all the kind of like really high sugary, hyper palatable things in the grocery store that's very calorically dense. If you were not intending to buy those type of things, now that in front of you, it's, they kind of hijack your psychology for you to buy them, and it worked. And so in that sense, it's like what you see influences your thoughts and stuff like that. And so the way that you can leverage this for at home, for example, if you were trying to cut out certain like junk food or minimize your cravings and just setting up your environment, is if you want to succeed, set up your environment at home and all the places where you occupy most of your time to work for you and against you, and not against you. And so the way that you can do that is, for example, like me and my girlfriend, we try not to lay anything out like on our kitchen counters, on the island, and things like that, of food items that's very snacky for us, that we can just stand there when we're bored and when we're thinking and just mindlessly eating over and over and over and getting extra calories in and stuff like that we don't want in that particular moment, just because we're eating, because we're mindless, we're bored, and we see it, which it's like, oh, okay, why not eat it? We try to change like that. And for some people who want to drink more water, I tell them, okay, so if the places where they spend most of their time is either in their office or in their car or in their home, and they have difficulty getting more fluids in and being hydrated, I tell them just have a water bottle at each different location. So you have 3 different water bottles, and then that way you can always see it. And if you're in your workflow, you're doing whatever, you don't have to think about trying to be more consistent at picking up your water bottle, carrying it to the next place, things like that. It's already, when you enter this other environment, it's already there in front of you. And as you see it, it can remind you to drink your water. That way, it looks like you have self-control, but you just set up your environment. So then you don't have to think as hard. It's already working for you. Same for it if you want to work out more consistently, either in the morning, before work, or after work. Something that you can do is plan the night before. So what you can do is just have your clothes already laid out, have everything packed, ready to go, and within line of sight, with like you walking out the door, your alarm is set, you're already going to sleep the night before, your pre-workout morning meal is already set, everything's already done. So that way you can spend less energy, make less decisions, and just go almost autopilot and like reflex mode, and just do the thing. You kind of get where I'm kind of going here. So easy way for you to change and curate what the inputs are, that way it can adjust your behavior, is just changing your environment. And so whatever the behavior is, the habit that you want to form or the person that you want to be, make sure that your environment is in alignment with that and helps you foster that type of environment for you to become the thing, do the thing, or develop the thing. So that's a really great way to really kind of like hack yourself to make it look like you have more self-control. Of course, there's going to be some level of activation energy to where you have to have the desire to want to change, and then you take that initiative and then you kind of ride that momentum to like start taking certain actions, whether they are small or big. But just changing your environment helps a lot from your external world to prevent you from doing a certain behavior. That way you are able to create that resistance, but also on the inverse, be able to lower that resistance and friction. That way you can do a certain behavior. So changing your environment from your home, your car, your work, and the people around you, all that stuff really helps. And so the next thing is your phone. So your digital world. So I like to go like super out, like external, so that whole environment set up right there, to maybe my phone. So that way it's like if I follow content and where they're not really serving me, they're kind of putting me in a negative headspace. I feel like I'm comparing myself to people, or I just start doom scrolling, and it's just kind of like things that's just wasting my time, that's not really helping me. And I'm trying to be more intentional and strategic with what I'm doing, with how I'm thinking, with what I want to learn, with the type of like good vibes and energy coming my way. I don't want to see content of people who are just victims, who are complaining, or just any of those type of content that just really isn't in alignment with me or what I want to see. I try to unfollow, block, whatever, shift the algorithm to where it is more helpful to me. And so trying to follow accounts that inspire me, accounts that educate me, accounts that can make me feel good. And then that way, if I feel good, I will want to do other behaviors that make me feel good. So adjusting what you consume online plays a huge role into your mental health, into the way your like self-talk is, the story that you tell yourself. That way you don't develop this type of like self-deprecating thoughts, of those like minor jabs that you may do to yourself. But like some people kind of just make fun of themselves before other people can, and it's super minor. It doesn't seem like anything, but like compound interest, that stuff kind of adds up, and it can be subconscious, and so you can adjust and rewrite that as well. So changing what you read and see online and on TV shows too, so that type of stuff. So adjusting what your inputs are will mirror and reflect outwards. So the external environment I just talked about, and now your digital, and now your internal. That's like I said, it's more the psychological level. Of course, that it's going to take more time. There's going to be resistance. There's going to be you challenging your belief systems, you asking, becoming more very introspective. But the nice thing is that as you go through, it's like you don't have to just go straight to the core like right away. Like you don't have to go, you don't have to get super deep right away. You can start with the surface because you're just interested in changing. You're kind of like dipping your toes in the water. So let's start on like the external stuff. That way you know that this is actually a thing. It can kind of help you, and then you can kind of go down the layers and as you go down through the layers, as you're doing the work kind of works on you, and inevitably you're already deconstructing and piercing apart your thoughts, your belief systems, challenging all that, and developing a better story that you tell yourself, and just how you speak and see the world, and maybe see yourself through kinder eyes, fresh eyes, and the rest of that stuff. So adjusting your environment plays a huge role in what you do next, because there's only two things in this world I have ever found that's true around my 28 laps around the sun are where what is the lens that you see the world through, and then what are you going to do next? So changing environment really changes you. Huge ROI. And yeah. Okay, so the next thing here of how you can adjust all this stuff is definitely having better systems and processes too, that's in alignment with the new habits and behaviors that you want to foster, develop, and acquire. And so with that, if you are trying to, I don't know, like in like, what's the example I want to go here is just have better systems, like use your calendar, become a person that's the discipline. Okay, that's the area where I want to go. So if you want to have more discipline, and where you wake up early, so then you can have time to go work out in the morning, to where you can read in the morning, go on walks, do whatever it is that you want to do, have more time for yourself, you will have to be more disciplined. Being more disciplined does give you more freedom in your decisions, your life, all that stuff. But just telling yourself to be more disciplined isn't very tangible. And so we have to look at what we do, look at this from an operational lens of, okay, what are the dominoes, what are the blocks that you have in front of you? Where are you wasting time? Where are you leaking energy out from just your thoughts and everything? That way, when you get to that behavior, you're already thinking forward for that, and you're good to go. Because if you think of yourself as like a battery, everything drains your battery slowly. You don't have multiple batteries. It's just one big battery, which is you. But every single decisions and thoughts and actions you take takes away from that battery. And so if you want to have more time yourself in the morning, using that for example, to learn something, work out, to whatever the thing is that's self-improvement, then you're going to have to go to bed the night before. I mean, go to bed earlier the night before. You have to wake up at a certain time to have that window. Okay, now if you wake up tired because you only slept for 4 or 5 hours and you want to feel more energized and more rested, then that might mean you have to go to bed a little earlier. So we're working backwards here. And if you want to go to bed earlier, then that means how you spend your evening, you have to get a little more efficient with it. That means maybe you have to prep your food, you have to have more dedicated nighttime routine. Maybe instead of like, how having an alarm clock to wake up, having an alarm clock to start winding down. That way you have a hard cutoff line or a soft cutoff line for yourself to start winding things down, to start getting ready for bed. And I know it may sound silly having a bedtime being an adult, but it's every decision, everything we want is a trade-off. There's consequences and everything's a trade-off. You can't have every single thing at the exact same time. You can't have both. You can't have you being a productive person in the morning, but you aren't rested in the morning because you don't want to sacrifice you staying up late because of you doing whatever and you still want to get up early. You can definitely do that, but the consequence of you staying up later is that your sleeping window is going to get reduced. And if you want to have the mental brain capacity to maybe do something intellectually stimulating in the morning, then you're going to need to be recovered. If you're wanting to do something fitness wise with some type of physical practice, you're going to need energy to do that. And then you have the whole rest of your day and everything else. So it's you trying to recharge your battery. And so it's not one is better than another. It's what do you want? And what are you willing to prioritize? So you can look at it through the lens of what do you want to sacrifice, but it's what do you want to prioritize? You can't have both. You can't have everything. And a lot with this behavior change and habits that people form, and depending on like what scale it is, a lot of the times you have to change your whole identity to the degree of whatever the output is. And so if the habits and behaviors that you're trying to form is like just drinking more water or becoming a tidier person around your home or someone that just reads a little bit more, that degree, that level of output, you change a little bit, like not a whole lot, but like a little bit. But now it's still changed. I'm not like minimizing or like dismissing that, but just being like objective and knowing like, hey, these changes happen a lot quicker and doesn't take as much level of self-improvement, adjustment of your environment, etc., etc. But now we're talking about something where you want to go back to school or go get this degree or get this promotion or lose 50 pounds or build 15 pounds of muscle or compete in this fitness competition. If you have goals that are multi months, years, or decades on that type of scale, that level of output is going to require a much greater level of input. So you're going with that scale, that magnitude of change and behaviors and habits and everything that you're going to have to do and become that's in alignment with that, it's going to require, there's a price tag to it. There's an entrance fee that you must pay to get there, to walk up to the door and then be able to walk through. And so with that, it's a level of identity change. Your decision if you want to change or not. And that's the thing. That's some of the big changes that I see in the people who are able to keep their weight off long term, because it's simple to lose weight, but it's not always easy. And so you hear stories of people losing 10 to like 100 pounds, which are incredible feats, of course. But then you look at people from a longer perspective of let's check back in after 1 year, 5 years, etc. And most people always gain the weight back. There's a large percentage. I think it's like 70, 80, I can't remember the exact statistical numbers, but it's something of that great scale. But then you look at the minority, how are people able to actually keep the weight off or do certain behaviors for a long time? It's that you have to strip yourself of the old identity to be able to become something new. You have to shed your skin, old skin, to become something new. You can't carry the chains and the baggage of the old decisions, old thoughts, old everything if you want something of this magnitude. And so that requires a lot more work on that end. Alrighty, well, that rounds out this episode. Like I said, something super short, super sweet. I just kind of wanted to just throw off top of the dome here. Hope this landed well with you guys. If you have not yet, hit the subscribe button. Really help me out, and you guys will always get notified when new episodes come out. And I will see you guys in the next one.